everyone. We're in the regular business meeting of the District of Squamish on Tuesday, October 17th. Often Squalum, Peace Welcome, Bless Squamish, Hawaii. Welcome to the traditional territory of the Squamish Nation. There's an amended agenda in front of council. I'd like to add a correspondence for action items, so make it 8A2. And it's the letter in front of you, the email in front of you from King Stegman Lowe from the terminals, and put it on the agenda because I just received it this afternoon, but it's timely because they're making their application to Federal Transport Canada beginning of November, and our next meeting is until the 7th of November. So, or next regular meeting. So with council's okay, we'll add that to the agenda, the amended agenda. The other amendment, of course, is the calling on first reading has been pulled from the agenda. And there is an Ocean Watch Task Force House on Community Forum recommendation, item 15.1 in the agenda as well. So move the amended agenda, moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Kent. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Are there any notices of motion? Seeing none, we have delegations, petitions, proclamations. And first up is 401 Aligned Collective letter of support. We have Zany Benner. Councillor Spell.
Thank you. I have to declare a conflict on this. I am involved with Aligned Collective.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Zany Benner. I am an urban strategist who focuses on community development projects. I'm the co-founder and co-director of Aligned Collective. Aligned Collective is a registered not-for-profit society that provides professional workspace and education opportunities to the Squamish economy. I'm here today to ask Council to support Aligned Collective with a letter of support. As a not-for-profit society who has to apply for grants to cover operating and programming costs, it is often required to supplement your application with letters of support from the community. A letter of support from the District of Squamish would help legitimize Aligned Collective as a significant space of community economic development and acceleration that aids in the implementation of the District of Squamish and Council's economic plans. To provide further background info, my partner and I have transformed 3,000 square feet of second-floor commercial space in downtown Squamish in less than 5 months. Our mission here is to provide resources for people to work in one environment across sectors, to learn from each other, grow their network, stimulate creativity, reduce overhead financial stress, and help build employment in our community. Aligned Collective provides professional office space and affordable commercial and education opportunities to businesses and community groups. Importantly, we facilitate growth of small local businesses into large spaces as they become available. We want to see our local businesses take the stage, grow into new spaces as they become available, and flourish. Importantly, given that we are a not-for-profit society, all our profits will be put into community programming and working on a collaboration model with Quest University to establish a city studio-like model. A city studio model is a project of social innovation. Our space will be a community-based hub where students, faculty, and regional municipal staff can collectively come together and put projects on the ground in places where we live, while utilizing advanced education and research to respond to community needs. Finally, I've been already in conversation and building relationships with the Economic Development Department, the Chamber of Commerce, and faculty at Quest University. All three are on board to support the growth of Aligned Collective and have been more than willing to collaborate with us and strategize innovative ways to use the space itself. After all, as regional areas in BC embark on smart city-like initiatives to support this next big wave of economic growth, supporting local economic development infrastructure initiatives that are actually building the bricks and mortars to foster social innovation and economic innovation will be key to seeing the success of implementation of big economic development plans. I hope Council will also become excited to consider supporting the not-for-profit society of Aligned Collective with letter of support, so we can apply for provincial and local economic development grants. Aligned Collective is not only a space guided by documents created by the district to enhance economic development, but a space and a place where people can get work done, grow their network, and align their community. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny. Any questions? It seems like a great initiative. I think interestingly enough, these types of things loosely came together naturally 20 years ago. I know that I was involved in one, sort of a collective of mutually supporting businesses under one roof, helping each other out and creating larger networks. And it's great. They seem to have gone away and now they're coming back again under a more sort of strategic umbrella, which is great to see. So, and I know there's been a couple of groups talking about City Studio in the community, and I just want to make sure that this group isn't working on it and this group is working on it separately. So I'm not sure if what I'm hearing here is your group or if it's another group that's doing it. And so it'd be good to make sure everything's dovetailing.
Aligned.
Yeah.
Well, I would be curious to hear more about what
Yeah.
you're doing to work on City Studio on that.
I'll share with you some emails I can get.
Great.
Yeah. Councillor Elliott.
Just a question, because you'll be applying for grants around economic development, right?
Yeah.
Is there a chance that we would be applying for the same grants as a district? And so, I'm just wondering if a blanket letter of support, it may sometimes not work for us, actually.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm not supportive of the idea, I just think that we are often careful about not competing with ourselves
Mhm.
around grant opportunities.
Yeah, I don't see Kate here, but I would think that would be something that ideally we would do in concert, whether it's with the chamber or with this group or with the BIA, that we collectively, we're all after the same goals, so we collectively figure out what the best strategy is to get some of that funding. So ideally we wouldn't compete, but I don't think a letter of support in general
I
would.
think more just making sure that
Oh,
we don't do that.
Don't.
Yeah, yeah.
I spoke with Kate about a month ago, and her idea was to present to council at first, and then we can figure out how, especially with the Chamber of Commerce, how the three of us can
Best way to move
and
everything forward.
team and
collectively.
deploy together. Yeah.
I think it actually could help with applications if there's a collaboration that actually makes these applications anyway, so, yeah. But we just want to make sure that communication is really open.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Don't see any. I'm happy to put forward that we provide a letter of support.
Thank you.
And I know we'll work closely with our economic development division and
Great.
get things going. Seconded by Councillor Race. Don't see any more hands. I'll call a question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion carries.
Thank
very much.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Chris, can you get Councillor Chappelle, please? Thank you. Moving on, we have a recommendation that we declare January 29th, February 9th as BC Aware Days. Move to the mover. Moved by Councillor Kent, seconded by Councillor Race. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion carries. And there's also a recommendation that we proclaim October 2017 as Foster Family Month. Moved by Councillor Kent, seconded by Councillor Elliott. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion carries. Consideration of unscheduled public attendance. Is there anyone in the audience who has a matter of urgency that needs to address council before the next council meeting? We don't have first reading, that has been taken off. Floodplain, should we move that off a little bit?
He's on his way. He'll be about 2 minutes.
Okay, so we're just gonna jump down to 7C, adoption. We're just gonna hold off on the floodplain bylaw until David gets here. So in front of us, we have permissive tax exemption bylaw number 2047, 2016, amendment bylaw 2558, 2017. Councillor Reese, which is the one that you are, here, it's this one, number 2.
Number 2. Yeah.
Okay. Be adopted. Moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Kent. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Should we do the other two and then we'll do that one last?
I can do it. That's okay. I declared a conflict in this earlier. I'm a member of the Squash Club, and so there's a financial impact. And part of the same tax-paying entity.
So there's a recommended motion that the District of Squamish permissive tax exemption bylaw, Squamish Valley Golf and Country Club, number 255/2017 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Kent, second by Councillor Elliott. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. I'm making you work tonight, but
You thought you were gonna get an answer.
next up, District of Squamish permissive tax exemption bylaw, Sea to Sky Community Service Society, number 2556/2017 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Kent, seconded by Councillor Chappelle. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And the District of Squamish permissive tax exemption bylaw miscellaneous, number 2557 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Ray, seconded by Councillor Elliott. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Correspondence, there is first letter up from E. Grant regarding parking on roads, and the recommended motion that we refer to staff for follow-up. Moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Reyes. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, it's this letter, this email in front of you from Kim Stegman Lowe of Squamish Terminals. They presented quite a few months ago their strategy to move forward with some of their initiatives for dredging and doing all the work around their berth. And so, as you can see by the letter, they've sort of achieved the first hurdle in this, and they've been asked to submit a detailed proposal. Early November was their deadline, so chose to add it to the agenda tonight so we could address this in a timely manner. Any questions about this? Anyone want to move this? Councillor Reyes, move that we write a letter of support. Second, Councillor Chappelle, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We're going to jump back in the agenda to item 7B1.
Apologies for the delay, Mayor Heinzman. We were a bit caught off guard by the shuffle.
Mutt and Jeff. That was mean.
That was, a little bit.
They're cute though. Mutt and Jeff are cute.
Wait a minute.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Sorry for the tardiness. Here today my name is David Rolson, Municipal Engineer with the District of Squamish. Here today to present the floodplain bylaw for the first 3 readings. Staff presented the bylaw to Council at the Community Development Standing Committee meeting on October 3rd for feedback. And so the intent today is to quickly summarize the bylaw without getting into many details today. The governing legislation is Section 524 of the Local Government Act, which gives local governments the powers to designate land as floodplain if they feel that it's subject to flooding, and then that gives the ability to regulate development within the floodplain. The bylaw must consider and comply with provincial guidelines and regulations, and the bylaw can also provide exemptions if the local government considers that it is consistent with provincial guidelines. The Integrated Flood Hazard Management Plan has laid out a comprehensive flood policy framework, and this floodplain bylaw is a critical piece of that to regulate building elevations, flood setbacks, and to provide construction specifications. So there's 4 main things that the floodplain bylaw does. The first is that it designates floodplains, which then gives the ability for the bylaw to regulate development within those floodplains. It establishes flood construction levels and setbacks from watercourses and flood protection works like dikes. It establishes floodplain specifications, things like erosion and scour protection for building foundations, and also what elements need to be above the flood construction level and what building elements can be below. And finally, it establishes exemptions, so 3 different types of exemptions. The first being general exemptions, so types of construction and types of buildings that don't need to be above flood construction levels. There's a local area exemption which exempts non-residential uses in the downtown from meeting flood construction levels. And then finally, there are site-specific exemptions which are available in cases of hardship. So there's several benefits that will come from this bylaw, including saving residents money, providing consistency for development across the floodplain, ensuring safe and resilient development, but we also feel that it does provide a measure of flexibility with the exemption process that's been put in place, and we also think that it can reduce review time because we'll be reviewing less reports, flood hazard reports by qualified professionals. There is a correction. The original agenda included a floodplain bylaw that had a figure in Schedule B that was slightly out of date. So we corrected that, and the changes are that the dike that follows around the oceanfront lands, it was previously identified as a sea dike. The newer version calls it flood and erosion protection works. And the other change is just with respect to the line type. We wanted to delineate the Squamish River dike as well as the sea dike because there are some special clauses in the bylaw that speak to those items or those elements. So the recommendation is that the District of Squamish give first, second, and third readings of the floodplain bylaw. That shouldn't be giver. Slight typo.
Any questions? I'm gonna let that one go. Any questions for staff? I mean, we have talked about this quite a bit, so don't see any questions. I'll look for a mover. Moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Reyes. Councillor Elliott, would you guys speak?
Yes.
Just thank you for all the hard work. It's taken a while for us to get here. I think 12 meetings on the integrated flood hazard management plan. But just having this consistency and knowing that people can rely on this bylaw across the district where floodplain is impacting them is really important. And appreciate the effort today.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you. And we did discuss this in quite a lot of detail. It's a very important bylaw, and so we're not discussing it much now, but we did quite a bit of detail on October 3rd, as you've noticed. And this, for me, is a key piece of our flood strategy, which for the District of Squamish is very, very important and goes along with the Flood Hazard Management Plan. And I think represents to me a significant amount of staff work and accomplishment. And so congratulations. I think there's another key step in our flood protection.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just quickly echo those comments. I think we'll let out a larger group when we do the integrated flood hazard management plan. But this is a good significant part of it. We did bring this up briefly at the House and Community Forum, just to say we've done this, and got quite a bit of interest from people at the forum in knowing what we've done and why we've done it and stuff. So it'd be great to share this with other municipalities because it's a proactive approach to try to streamline bureaucracy and streamline processes. So appreciate all the work. Good job.
Thank you.
I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Deb, not here.
You can sneak down.
Not yet. No, not yet.
Almost.
There are a number of correspondences in the agenda. Would council like any of them pulled for discussion? Councilor Elliott.
Number 5, please.
Fair management? No, sorry. Not at all, the name change, please. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, Councilor Elliott?
Yeah, I pulled this one because this was a presentation by some First Nations students to get our support for a name change. And it would be great to just follow up and see if that is progressing. I mean, the details say that anybody can apply for the name change, but certainly there would be support, continued support from this local government, and I'd be interested to see those students take it forward.
Yeah, I've been in touch with them a little bit, so I'll contact them to make sure they have the support needed for, I don't want to take this away from them, it's
No,
their
that's
initiative.
not my intention.
But I'll follow up with them just to make sure they have the tools that they need to proceed.
Thank you. When I saw this, I mean, the first thing that frankly came to my mind is whether we would be the appropriate body to apply for it. And I don't think so. And I was just wondering if Squamish Nation Chiefs and Council has taken a position on this and perhaps an inquiry along that line as well.
Yeah, I'll follow up with that. I know I did discuss it with Chris, and the conversation didn't allude to that they weren't supportive. It was more, and I know the last time I talked to the students, they were engaging the nation in that conversation. It was the end of last school year when they were kind of making this
Right.
initiative, so I'll follow up with them, and I know they were following up with the Squamish Nation as well. So. Great. I might just quickly speak to the Mayor Richmond's Passenger Transportation Board opposition to the Greyhound reduction of services. And it might be worthwhile, even though it is Pemberton specific that he's talking about, it might be worthwhile sending a letter of support to Pemberton. We've gone through Greyhound's reduction of services, you know, death by 1,000 cuts over the last 12 years to a point where it's a much reduced service today than it was 10 or 12 years ago. And so I wouldn't mind offering a little bit of support to Pemberton on this one. These smaller rural communities are so dependent on services like Greyhound, and in the absence of proper public transportation, this is really sometimes the only option for people.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think, although it's strictly speaking, it's Pemberton's position, I think we're kind of entwined in the region. And so I think that would be appropriate. I'll move that.
Okay, moved by Councillor Race, I'll second that. Any discussion? Call the question, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We have minutes from the special business meeting of October 3rd and the regular business meeting of October 3rd. Move they be approved. Did I miss something? Oh yeah, letters. Rewind. Motion to receive all the letters. Moved by Councillor Race, seconded by Councillor Elliott. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Move approval of the minutes from the special business meeting of October 3rd and regular business meeting of October 3rd. Moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Kent. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, we have committee minutes from the Community Development Standing Committee, and there's a recommended motion. There is a recommended motion that the minutes be received for information. Moved by. I'll move that. Seconded by Councillor Kent. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. There is a recommended motion from that staff maintain the status quo in regard to parking on Cleveland Avenue until further parking options are presented to council. Moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Kent. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. There's a motion regarding the Integrated Flood Hazard Management Plan that we finalize and adopt the Integrated Flood Hazard Management as amended to include the following comments. Change the lead role from municipal to federal provincial governments on page 8 to 6?
8-6.
8-6, right. Soften the language on community money contributions as a source of funding, specifically on page 8-8, and that staff begin implementation of the plan. Move that. So this is still coming back in its final verbiage to us, though, is it not?
This is not
No.
yet.
This is actually adopting that plan. Okay.
This is when we do the whoop whoop.
Did I second that? Did somebody second that? Seconded by Councillor Race. Anyone want to speak to it? David, do you want to speak?
Sure, I'd love to speak.
Okay.
You deserve it.
So maybe I'll just say, this has been 3 years, 3.5 years of hard work, and I think you said it last meeting, we can look to this as maybe a benchmark for other communities to actually achieve. I mean, I think it's quite a remarkable accumulation of information and policy, and it was a long haul, but it was an iterative process, and I think at the end of the day, I think we got a pretty great product, so thank you for your work.
Thank you, Mayor Heinzman and Council. It has been a very extensive plan, lots of community consultation, a lot of technical work. I think that Squamish is now in a position probably with the best policy in the province, if not among the best policy in the province. We have some of the best floodplain mapping in the province. I think we're positioned very well, but I think that the success of this plan will be in the implementation. As hard as it has been to form the plan, the success is now going to be in implementing it. And the floodplain bylaw is a great first step. Coming up with a funding plan and upgrading our dikes over the next many years is going to be another critical piece of that. Adopting official community plan policy is going to be a critical component of that. So there's a lot of things that need to be done to make sure that this is a successful plan, but I think it's off to a good start.
And finding funding for $80 million or so dollars.
Yes. Easy.
Serious grant writing.
Excellent. Anybody else? We moved it, we seconded it? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Now
Thank
we
you.
can vote. We have a public art committee meeting minutes received for information. I'll move that. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Chappelle. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And meeting minutes from the October 10th, the Finance and Audit Standing Committee. Moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Race. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Council staff in camera announcements. We did have a bunch. Should we bring those forward today? We appointed some new members of our advisory design panel. I don't need to read it out, do I? This is now open information, and we want it. We do thank the people who put their name forward. We had a great group of people apply, and a really strong, talented ADP, so really pleased how robust that group is. Unscheduled public attendance, there is none. Open question period for clarification related to agenda item.
I just have one
Sure, come on up.
quick meeting, so I'm drag it out. But were there any details on why Polygon wanted to reschedule the first reading for tonight?
Yeah, from what I understand, they were contemplating it for the last couple days because they received some feedback from a couple community groups that they wanted to follow up with. Particularly Watershed Society and Stream Keepers was what I was told. So they want to have those conversations and then they'll come back. As far as I know, like there hasn't been a date set, probably sometime in November. Our agenda is really full, so finding a time when we can put it in, but likely sometime in November, but it hasn't been set yet.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Council staff announcements. There is a recommended motion that this, and maybe I'll ask Councillor Race to speak to this because he does co-chair the Ocean Watch Task Force. And I'll just preface this by saying this was discussed at the House Home Community Forum last Friday, and the forum asked that all the member municipalities consider this motion, but I'll pass it over to Councillor Race to transfer everybody.
Thank you. At the last Ocean Watch Task Force, which was a week ago Friday, we considered this. We had a presentation from a gentleman who lived in Bowen Island and is what might be termed a citizen scientist, and is one of the people, many people who are intimately familiar with and very passionate about the health of Howe Sound. He's a diver, recreational diver, and has been part of mapping out, along with a number of other people, sponge glass reefs in Howe Sound. These are actually, and it was fascinating for me because I'd heard of the term and I didn't really know what they were, but they are actually prehistoric in origin, and they've kind of made it through with all of the other, and a lot of other things didn't, of course, make it through. And they've found a whole bunch of new sites along the eastern half of Howe Sound. That, they speculate, is because of the impact of the Squamish River. And it's more or less a direct line south from the Squamish River. Because one of the building blocks of these sponge glass reefs, they are living organisms similar to a coral reef, and then they die in the skeletons there and so forth. But one of the building blocks of it is very fine silica, which comes by erosion from the Squamish River. And so it's given rise to these things. These have sort of world-class status in the sense that usually they are found in very, very deep water. Here in Howe Sound, almost uniquely compared to the rest of the world, they are found in waters that are shallow enough that they can be reached by scuba divers, 100 to 150 feet, which is more than I would dive, but within the range of a better recreational scuba diver. And so what they're looking for now is some protection from these, stopping people from bottom fishing in the area, anchoring in the area, and so forth. Much like there are rockfish conservation areas in Howe Sound. In fact, some of them coincide. So this is the start of a process to get DFO engaged. Before you do that, declare those as conservation areas. It takes public consultation. That's conducted by DFO. So the task force passed these resolutions. It went on to the Howe Sound Forum, which I did not attend, but that was last Friday, and the mayor was at it, I believe, and Councillor Elliott, I'm sure. And, excuse me, they, I'm told, also agreed with that, and so now it's coming out to member municipalities and local governments for support.
And one thing to add too is the bottom of Howe Sound, I gather, is quite desolate, except where these sponge reefs exist, and that's where the rockfish are and the shrimp, and they're real hiding area. And
it's a nursery for a lot of other inhabitants. That's right.
Critters. So this is and DFO. There was a woman from DFO, wasn't she? Yeah, a woman from DFO. So I think DFO was quite keen on the project, and she presented at the House on Forum. And from my perspective, happy to support this motion. Councillor Race, did you want to put forward?
I will.
Moved by Councillor Race, seconded by Councillor Elliott. Any questions? Anyone want to go scuba diving?
Snorkel.
Well, you need snorkel. You probably free diving. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Just a few items. There is a mayor's drop-in tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Last one was pretty well attended. A good group of people having a really comprehensive discussion about a whole bunch of different things. So that's at 11 o'clock in my office. And I'm also having a breakfast with the mayor on Friday morning at the library. I'm going to forget her name, but the woman in charge of electric vehicles and climate change from the Fraser Basin Council is coming up for a board meeting. So I said, hey, can you come up and have a conversation about the future of cars, electric vehicles? She'll probably touch on car sharing. She's a board member of Moto and even automated vehicles. So start today, but people show up about board day 7:30 at the library, have an interesting conversation about cars in the future. And also next week, our committee meetings are all at the RCMP building, one of our outreach meetings or out of council chambers meetings. So it's not in this room, it's at the RCMP building, and looks like a pretty interesting agenda. Is there anything else we needed to touch on?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Are those meetings open to the public
Yes.
so they can get it?
If I might, so it's the corporate and public and corporate services meeting, and then committee as a whole after lunch. 1 in the morning, 9:30.
I do believe people need ID. No, they don't. That's just us.
Yes.
Because we're the sketchy ones.
Well,
No, it's in the
doubt.
public meeting room, in the public meeting room.
Okay.
We need ID.
Awesome. Okay, I think that's it. Motion to terminate.
Well,
Yeah. Yes, I'm sorry.
No other announcements? And-
Oh, yeah, please.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
And you and I, you may have forgotten already, we're at the Fireman's Appreciation Dinner on Saturday,
That's awesome.
which is an annual event and honors our full-time as well as our volunteer firefighters who contribute immensely to this, to our community's well-being. The mayor spoke very well, Chief Stoner spoke very well, and there were some awards given out to firefighters who have been in service for 10 years. I think there were 3 of those.
3, yeah.
One at 30 years
Steve Brown.
and one at 35 years, Dave Richardson, who's
Yeah.
also a friend of mine and I know has been a huge part of this community for a long time, even before the 35 years. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, especially Dave and Steve, I mean, they've been doing this for a long time and remarkable persistence and dedication to the community, absolutely fantastic. And I'm always amazed by Chief Stoner. I've seen him give a lot of speeches and he's so good and he's so down to earth and his team, there's a mutual admiration society going on amongst the firefighters, which is awesome.
Thanks. I will be in attendance next week. I'm going to Meeting of the Minds in Cleveland, Ohio, of all places, to speak on a panel. I'm actually running a panel on artificial intelligence and cities and data collection for the future. And if anybody, public or council, has any questions that they'd like to pose to Black and Vetch, does a lot of city intelligence. One of the heads of Black and Vetch is going to be on the panel, and the chief information officer from the city of Ohio and Cuyahoga County will also be on the panel. And
You just want to say
Cuyahoga, exactly. Really interesting people. There's 120 city professionals from all over the globe that are in attendance, and for 2 days I'll be running seminars on artificial intelligence and cities. So if anybody has questions on water systems or cars is one of the major, automated cars is one of the major topics. So please forward them to me and get in touch. I think it's a really great way to interact with global professionals on the future of cities, and smart cities was a great topic this afternoon. So.
Awesome. Excellent. Anybody else? Seeing none, motion to terminate. Moved by Councillor Elliott, Councillor Hunt, seconded by Councillor Elliott. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.